Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right into this one. Yep, here we go again. What is the deal? Why does this keep happening? First, Nico. Now we got all the boo stuff going on. Why can't you just sign a contract and do what's expected of you? Is that so difficult? People used to do it all the time just for a scholarship. Now you get hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. Oh, well, I'm going to be difficult. Why? You'd think people would be thrilled to be 18, 19, 20. Well, maybe that's the problem. Maybe being 18, 19, 20 is part of it. Jeez. There's a lot of smoke going on about Boo Carter and Tennessee and all that kind of stuff. Let's get right into it. And we're going to talk about Nico, too. A bunch came out on him. Let's start out with the A to Z Sports with Zach Reagan, and he talks about Tony Basilio and all that. Team leaders are sick of it, according to an insider, about Boo Carter not showing up for meetings and such. And Tony Basilio, he commented on that and said that it's not a slam dunk that Boo will be playing for Tennessee in 2025. He said they're having some issues with him. I do think that's real, and I don't, at this point in time, think it's a slam dunk that he's playing here. I think that's a fair thing to say. Now, Tony's been doing this for a long time, okay? I've known Tony since the 90s when I was running a golf course called River Islands, and he was doing radio back then, so he's very connected. I typically listen to him when it comes to things like that, so I would say there's some truth to this. And it talks about Tennessee's leadership council. These are the players themselves. They're unhappy with Carter because he's been unplugged this summer. And it said it reminds them of a similar situation with edge rusher James Pierce. As many of you know, James was he was a great player, but he was difficult at times to deal with. And it sounds like this player council's getting frustrated, and that's very difficult. I played at UT back in the day on the golf team, of all things. Not football. And, look, you need everybody on the same page. If you're supposed to all show up at a certain time for a meeting, practice, whatever it is, especially if you're on scholarship, you better be there. And if you've got one person or two that decide, well, we're just going to do whatever we want, that makes it extremely difficult to keep discipline on the team and to have consistency. And it really ticks off the other players because they're following the rules and you're not. And especially if you're getting a lot more money than they are, that really ticks them off. It hurts morale. It hurts a lot of things. And it's very frustrating for a head coach. That's why they like having the players, kind of like a players' council, to kind of keep everybody in line. That way it's more their peers, because that's actually a stronger form of discipline in a way. It says, he also said Tennessee paid Carter a lot of money to keep him here, and quite frankly, he's not been plugged in. He said, I've been told the picture that's painted is one where he's missed workouts, he's come late to team stuff, and he talks about how Josh Heupel always wants to guard his culture. And one of the ways he does is through the power and the magic of the council, which again are your teammates. It says Miles Kinselman and then Joshua Josephs, I guess they're kind of the big dogs there as far as keeping people in line. Said Pierce drove him crazy and drove everybody crazy, and even Rodney Garner. So it's hard having a really talented dude that's problematic. And it'd be so great if he was part of the council and was really, keeping everybody in line. It'd be so much easier having a guy like that. Instead, sometimes you get these talented dudes and they're just tough to deal with. And they're young and, jeez. Then Basilio said, let's go to the Boo Carter stuff. Said the players are sick of it. The whole council's sick of it. That does not sound good. And then Josh Heupel has a decision to make. Must be getting pretty thick. Said the council's been very vocal towards the head coach. Man, that puts Heupel in a tough spot. Said, I'm not saying whether or not Boo Carter is going to be on Tennessee's football team this year. Said, I don't pretend to know that, but I'm going to tell you this thing is real. This is a real situation and a real problem. And a distraction. Folks, that doesn't sound good to me. This sounds a lot like the Nico situation, and we've already been through the ringer with him and that horrible decision that he made, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. More information's come out on that. But this Boo Carter thing, and it has not gone unnoticed by our foes. This is High Top Sports. He's usually my go-to guy for Florida football. They were ahead of me on this. That's how much they're enjoying this crap.
The other thing I was kind of, again, scanning through that he was missing practices, very similar to the Nico drama as well. And look, the same type of how this is unfolding, where it seems like it's just a bunch of gibberish behind the scenes. That's how the Nico conversation started. Usually, when there's smoke, there's fire. Yeah, I've learned that very quickly. And I think because there really isn't any repercussions for being wrong anymore, more and more people are willing to put their name on it and be associated to some sort of news, whether it is true or not. Because more than likely, there's probably some truth to this. The severity of it probably varies. But the biggest thing that I wanted to talk about was just the cultural issues and how Tennessee, I genuinely think, takes a huge step back.
Yeah, I can go ahead and tell you, Florida is not happy that we've beaten them 2 out of the last 3 years, and they know we got to go to the swamp, which they're very happy about. And they've got DJ Lagway. We're with Joey Aguilar, sort of a big question mark, and they think they're going to romp on us, and they can't wait. So they're over there roasting marshmallows, Gators. And, here's the thing. I have been so kind to them. I never bring up the fact that they've had the 3 losing seasons in a row, or that Billy has struggled, or that they wanted him all fired. They all wanted him fired. High Top was one of them. But I don't know. I may have given him a little bit of grief every now and again.
It ain't got no gas in it. You see there, Scooter? Thinks of the simplest things first.
So, anyway, I wanted y'all to see that. So don't think that our opposition isn't watching this closely. They are. And lastly, on Fox Sports Knoxville, a fella here talks about Boo Carter. And this is the guy, if you'll remember, I believe he talked about Nico turning down the $50,000 offer as a sponsorship for a company. He wanted $65,000. And that also was confirmed by Will West at 99.1, that he had heard that story too, and that he actually talked to the business owner. So this guy has some credibility, this Fox Sports Knoxville, and I'll let you hear what he has to say about this.
The biggest talking point right now inside the Tennessee fan base is about the status of star sophomore Boo Carter. Boo is an electric prospect out of the state of Tennessee, where he actually won Mr. Tennessee for his senior season, where he excelled playing both ways at Bradley Central. In his freshman season, Boo Carter had some big highlights and was looked poised for a breakout for a sophomore season. However, there's been rumors and speculation about his status. We did some investigative journalism and tracked down some insiders who know a little bit more about the situation. However, they were not willing to speak on camera without a little protection due to the sensitive subject matter. So we granted them some anonymity. Here you go.
Boo's a good kid. Boo's not caught up in all the stuff that people are talking about. Boo's a loyal friend. He's a good teammate. Are there questions about whether or not he missed practice? Yeah, sure. Sometimes practice is tiring, though. Sometimes guys have things they gotta do. No one knows that, though, and the Tennessee fan base needs to quit getting so wrapped up about it. Sharing posts from his mother, that's unacceptable. There's no need for that. And we don't need to know what his mother says on social media. It seems as if the fan base is trying to drive a wedge between Boo and his teammates. It's just a little tough love. It's normal for kids that age. He's gonna play at Tennessee this year and be really good. I hope everyone should stop with the witch hunt. Everyone should stop with the radio fodder and the social media fodder. Except for this social media fodder. Pay attention to it. It's positive. Everything's gonna be okay. GBO.
There you have it, folks. Inside reporting from Fan Run Sports.
All right, so there's something positive at least, that maybe this will get worked out and that he's going to be, because look, what are his options? The transfer portal's closed. He's not a graduate transfer, so, he doesn't have the options that even a graduate would have. But again, the portal's closed, so the only way he could even go and play somewhere else, I guess he'd have to get a waiver. Tennessee's not going to give him a waiver, and he can't use the over 105 limit deal, because that's for players that wouldn't be playing. And he's a starter, so that certainly wouldn't fit him either. So I guess he'd probably have to sue the NCAA to get that waiver, that's a whole nother thing. So anyway, I don't think the options are quite as good for him as a Nico was leaving in the spring portal, even though those were terrible options for him. Well, you saw what happened. He wound up at UCLA for half the money. But anyway, speaking of Nico, some more came out about him. And this came out on several different news organizations. This one's on the Sporting News, said Nico left Tennessee after Josh Heupel failed to fulfill his father's ultimatum. So it sounds like his dad gave some sort of ultimatum to Josh Heupel, which always goes over well with head coaches. They love that when the parents go in there and tell them what to do.
Oh, hell no!
Jeez. Now, Josh Pate chimed in on this a while back. He talked about the people who screwed this up for him, his representation, should do the first dignified thing they've done and step up and take the arrows for him. He's not the one that got himself into the mess. And then Kirk Herbstreit actually just talked about it, and this came out yesterday.
I don't know the true story. I've heard different stories. Some people thought it was about money. I've heard from close sources it was more about Nico's dad going to Josh back in December before they played Ohio State, like, hey, listen, you got to get better at offensive line and better at receiver. You got to get better around him if you want us to stick around, which blows my mind that a college quarterback's dad would do that to a head coach. And I think at the end of the day, when they got into spring ball, it was still more of you haven't brought people in to make him and this offense better. Again, I don't know if that's true, but that's what I was hearing. So I don't think it was necessarily about the money. I think it was more about, is Nico going to be able to play well enough to eventually be a first pick in the draft with the players that they had around him? That's disgusting to me if that's true.
So there you go. Ultimatum to get better around Nico. You know, one of the first things that he might have considered doing was asking his son not to overthrow so many wide open wide receivers, like the time he overthrew 3 guys in the first half, wide open touchdowns in the Alabama game. That would probably help his numbers and help him in the NFL as much as anything. And that's one of the reasons why we had to go to a running game, because Nico was overthrowing and he was getting strip sacked. They had to change the way we were doing our offense in the Oklahoma game because of that very thing. So 19 touchdowns is the worst any Josh Heupel quarterback's done in forever. They're normally 25 to 35 touchdowns. But you've got to hit open wide receivers on those long routes. You have to. You can't overthrow them every time 5-10 yards. You just can't do it. So that would have helped him a lot. And then the funny thing is, we put 2 5-star tackles on the left and right to protect him, which are the 2 most important positions on the offensive line. Spent a fortune to protect Nico. You would think his dad would be happy about that. Brought in the number 1 tackle in the country this year and had to pay a lot, had to outbid Ohio State. Had a 5-star wide receiver, a top 100 wide receiver, excellent tight ends. So they'd done plenty around him to help Nico. But, you know, Nico needed to get better. That was probably as much the problem as anything. You know, I noticed Hendon Hooker didn't struggle for his 2 years, and we didn't have near as much talent. I know we had Jalen Hyatt, but we didn't have as much talent around him. We had been gutted in 2021. Gutted. Because of the transfer portal when Jeremy Pruitt left. And yet, we had the number 7 offense in the country that year. Next year, we were number 1 in the country. So it can be done, but guess what? The guy that touches the ball every play, he's got to play well too. You can't just literally put 5 stars in every single position and then let the quarterback play a 3-star role, which is kind of what happened last year, honestly. He was okay, but it wasn't anything special. And it was certainly nothing up to the standards of what a Josh Heupel quarterback typically does. That's just a fact. And then secondly, if it's so bad to have players that aren't top-notch at every position, what'd you go to UCLA for? That's 3-star U. Every player over there is 3-star just about. Right here, 2026, they've got 23 recruits, 20 of which are 3-stars with an 87.7 average. That is way below where the Vols are. That's 2026. Let's look at 25. Oh, here you go. 19 3-stars, 2 4-stars, and 86.9% average. And you know what? Let's look at the year before that. Oh, and they were 42nd, by the way, in that year. I guess I'll have to hit load more for 2024 to find UCLA. And by the way, these are going to be the players that are protecting him and helping him. Oh, here you go. 2024, they finished 90th. I guess that was when they fired their coach or whatever. 8 3 stars, 2 4 stars, 88 average. 90th. So, what do you think about that? Is that going to protect Nico? Is that going to be great wide receivers to throw to? I mean, none of this makes sense. It really doesn't. I think what happened was his representation, Nico's team, got in his head and kept telling him, they're not putting enough good players around you. They're not paying you enough. And they overplayed their hand. And before long, Nico started believing all that. And then Pete Nakos came out with this story that got everybody butt hurt. And he got mad and he got his feelings hurt. And he said, well, I won't go to practice. I won't go to the spring game. He said, I'll just go get my $4 million. Y'all been telling me I can get no problem anyway. And let's just do that, guys. Let's just go get the $4 million. And you know what his team did? Ugh. You know what? Maybe you ought to sleep on this. Maybe just don't make a decision yet. And you probably ought to go talk to Coach Heupel. And he was probably like, what? What are you talking about? I'm not going to talk to him. You're going to go get me that $4 million you've been telling me about and all these great players I'm going to be surrounded by. Call up Oregon, Ohio State. Let's get this done. I'm not going there tomorrow. And then it turned out overplayed the hand because none of that was true. You didn't have $4 million waiting on you here at wherever. Ohio State didn't want you. Oregon didn't want you. It's just a fact. And then you wind up for half the pay with half the talent around you. And UCLA's a fine school. They'll be, they'll win 5-6 games. They'll do okay. They're not horrible, but they are not touching Tennessee's talent. If we played them right now, we would wear them out. They don't have the horses. So good luck this year. Because when you go to the shoe and play Ohio State this year, you're not going to have bookend 5 stars to at least give you some time. And when you play Penn State, they're not going to take it easy. Utah, all these different, look, you're in the Big Ten. You may have a few easier games, but when you play those top dogs, you're going to be playing just as tough of teams as a Georgia or a Texas or whoever. So anyway, just more information on this I'm not a bit surprised by hearing this from Kirk Herbstreit. It sounds like probably what happened. I mean, we don't know for sure 100,000%, but it sure sounds right. Anyway, what a day. I hope this isn't another Nico deal with Boo Carter. And that would be another huge mistake on his part. Don't get Vol Nation turned against you. You don't want that. You just don't. It's such a huge mistake long term. And I know he's young, but he needs to wake up right now and appreciate what he's got, which is a great situation at UT where he's going to be a starter on defense, going to get to play on offense. He's making great money. It's not going to be any better anywhere else, especially right now. And that's even if you got to play. So hopefully somebody get in his ear that he'll listen to. And I'm not going to show you the thing that his mom put out there. It was just had too much profanity in it and all that kind of stuff, and it doesn't help anything. But hopefully for his sake, more than for Tennessee's sake, for his sake, because I'm kind of the point where I'm tired of this crap. I really am. You know what? My position is get with the program or go do something else. Because we just cannot allow this to go on constantly. Oh, I'm just going to do whatever I want to do and you better pay me. No, that's not how team sports work. I know this firsthand. Oh, and I do also want to tell you folks this. Tentatively, I always say that, 8-10 Thursday night, I'm going to be on Buckeye Scoop. We're going to talk about this South Carolina having Tennessee signs.
Allegedly.
And all of that. And they've got some information as well. We're going to discuss all of that because they've been heavily involved on the Michigan sign stealing scandal.
The sign stealer guy.
I mean, they've covered it as well as anybody. So I'm going to be there talking to them all about that and what they believe happened as far as Connor Stallions, South Carolina, and all that. So you may want to check that out. Anyway, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Lets me know to continue to cover all this craziness. And if you haven't subscribed, boom, 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 hit that button right there. It won't cost you a dime. Help you get my videos. And right over here is a YouTube video YouTube thinks you'll enjoy based on your viewing history. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.
I want you to know it's over.